Hey, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jeremy.
And you're listening to the Deathscography podcast, episode 15.
Yeah,
My favorite word in Spanish is quince, which means 15.
I was hoping it would mean 15. I was hoping you weren't going to say something unrelated. It's quince, which means
toboggan.
Exactly. Yeah, so hey, we have a special guest host on today's episode. Andy, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, this is Andy. I play in a band from Chicago called the Eradicator.
That's right. Yeah, we
Eradicator.
We met over the internet, and then I did some photos for you guys, ended up on a record. And listeners, if you haven't heard the Eradicator, you should really check them out. They're absolutely fantastic. Andy, am I right in saying that you're kind of the only like permanent member, and you kind of have like a rotating cast around you?
Yeah, there's like a couple of guys here in Milwaukee, a couple of guys in Chicago that are like the typical guys that play, but I do it as a solo thing too, where I'll just like play with other people in other cities.
Would you say that you are the Eradicator?
I don't think I could literally say that like legally.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was going to say the last time I saw you play down here in Gainesville, you had some of my bosses as your backing band, and that was really fun.
Nice.
Yeah, Jake and Warren, who own Boca Fiesta, were two members of his backing band.
Yeah,
so it was really cool. But yeah, so I just wanted everyone check out that band. You're absolutely fantastic. If Fest happens this year, it would be cool. I think you're supposed to be playing, but who knows if it's going to fucking happen. I don't know.
Yeah, if you go back and listen to episodes of this podcast, like 3 months ago, we're like, yeah, we're going to see everybody at Fest. And then like a month and a half ago, we're like, yeah, man, we're hoping for Fest. And now Jeremy's like, if it happens, maybe.
Yeah,
we'll maybe see you.
It might, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, everything's just very... Jeff, you want to open that can? It's like the intro to that...
Hell Yeah song?
No.
Yeah. Is that what you were going to say?
No.
Is that where you're going?
That metalcore band... Dead to Fall?
Dead to Fall.
Yeah,
Major Rager.
Oh, they open it with that. All right, well let's get into it.
My mom is gonna be so pissed. Someone threw a brick into the TV.
All right, so on this episode, we are.
I promise we're a real podcast, Andy.
Andy, this is a real thing. We're getting to it. It's not just 10 minutes of us talking about Major Rager. Well, actually, that's kind of what it is. I don't know. Yeah. So this episode, we are talking about the Hope Conspiracy and the Suicide Files split, Dead Man's Hand 1. It came out in 2002, towards the end of the year. We're actually about to wrap up this year for Deathwish. I think there's one more release that they released in 2002 that we'll talk about next episode. But then we're on to 2003,
Good year.
Yeah, we've honestly, so this is episode 15. Like we've done, most of these episodes have been 2002 releases. They released a fuck ton of shit.
No, I was talking about 2003.
It's
a good year. I was a junior in high school. I began being allowed to drive to school.
That sounds like a fantastic. I don't know. Year. I was like 13.
Yeah. Sick. Andy, what were you doing in 2003?
Yeah, what were you doing in 2003?
I was in my 20s. So
nice.
Yeah. I remember when this, like around that time when this record came out.
Hell yeah.
Honestly, that's why
I was super into Orgy. I was listening to a lot of Orgy.
The activity or the band?
A lot of Korn.
2003, I was 8th grade ish.
You don't gotta brag about it.
Yeah, I'm a child. I'm turning 30 this week, so I'm I'm feeling weird in all sorts of ways. But I was listening, like I think we said this a couple episodes ago. I was maybe listening to like Slipknot, maybe.
Yeah,
I was just not. These
you were
bands,
not.
I was not
You were Slipknot. All right.
That's awful. Okay.
hate
The
myself.
Hope Conspiracy was nowhere in my
Wheelhouse.
wheelhouse yet. But they definitely got there. Honestly, that's one reason I was super excited about this record is like, as far as early Deathwish stuff goes, the Hope Conspiracy was definitely a band that stuck out to me. Like, oh, I've heard them before. I really like this band. It's
I
something I'm
definitely
excited to
never
get to.
heard. I had never heard of the Suicide File. Suicide File before listening to this.
Andy, are you a fan of both bands, Hope Conspiracy and Suicide File?
Yeah. So let's see. So I did sound for shows like metal shows and hardcore shows in the late 90s, early 2000s, around the Chicago suburbs. And I did sound for a Converge Hope Conspiracy show in like way early 2000. And I remember being terrified of the Hope Conspiracy because like he's just like a big burly scary looking guy, and like he like right before the set he just like stared at me. He's like, I want all the lights off. It's like, oh, all right.
Okay.
And trying to do
like,
that as quickly as
I'm the
possible.
sound guy.
Yeah, and then
I don't control the lights.
yeah, and there was so the guitar player of Hope Conspiracy is Niraj, who also is the guitar player of the Suicide File. So
Yeah, I see. Okay.
yeah, so this was like Niraj's like. I mean, Hope Conspiracy was around for a little while, but like this is like kind of like there are a lot of people like that came to hang out with Niraj because he was from the Chicago suburbs. He was in a band called Extinction, and
that's
like,
right.
Yeah, there were just a lot of people that like came out, and I remember I don't know if I met him at that show, but like it was just one of those like, you know, even though it was a Converge show, it was like 200, 300 people there, so it was like relatively small in the grand scheme of things, but like yeah, and I met Niraj like maybe 4 or 5 years later. I actually put out a record of one of his bands. So
oh shit,
yeah, and actually for that band I filled in for him one time. So like,
what band?
It was called Holy Roman Empire. They were around.
You know, I was actually going to talk about them. I didn't know. I love that band. I didn't know he was in that band until I did the research for this episode.
Yeah, yeah. So I put out that record. That was. Yeah, quite a while ago.
That's cool. Yeah, I doing research. The Hope Conspiracy, like they claim to be a like based out of Boston band, which they were technically, but like you were saying, Niraj, he was from Chicago, and the other members, at least at the beginning, they were all from like Minneapolis originally. They were in this band called Harvest.
Yeah.
And like Harvest broke up, and then they all decided to move to Boston because the Northeast is such a killer scene for like hardcore. And they recruited Niraj to move there as well and join the band. Yeah. From what I found. So that's cool that
he went to college too. I think like because there's a lot of colleges in that area. I'm not sure specifically like what college he went to, but yeah. I mean,
but yeah, it's just cool to think of like, you know, I always thought of them as like a Northeastern band, but in reality, they were all from kind of the Midwest, and then they all moved to Boston which I get, you know, like it's a really cool area. It's good for hardcore, you know.
Would you say they were shipping out to Boston?
Fucking Jesus. All right. See you, Andy. That was it. That's done. Okay. But yeah, I guess to continue that trend about the Hope Con. So they formed in like 99 ish, and they recorded their first demo. And from the get go, they were recording with Kurt Ballou from Converge at God City, which is why their stuff has always sounded killer. He's I mean, top 5 producers for me, top 5 engineers. So like, I love almost everything that dude touches is just like sounds phenomenal. But so they recorded their demo, and then in 2000 they record their full length. They put that out through Equal Vision. Yep. Equal Vision, and then they ended up doing a couple other things and through various stuff. They get signed to Bridge 9, put an EP out through them, and then by the time this album comes around, they had put out another LP called In Note on Equal Vision, but signed to Deathwish and put this 7-inch split out with the Suicide File, and then continue to stay on Deathwish and are currently on Deathwish, quote unquote, even though they're not really a band anymore.
Yeah, they never like officially disbanded, but I don't think HopeCon has done anything in quite a while.
Yeah, as far as I could tell,
I don't know.
Like they really haven't done anything. They released their last record they released was in like 2009, and that's kind of been the last time they've been active. They were touring a little bit around there, but they haven't done much since then.
We've been trying to pester them through Twitter with our hashtag hey, please get the Hope Con to play Fest, please. All right, thanks. But no response on that yet. But
so I was
we'll keep plugging.
Yeah, so I was actually supposed to play with Niraj's new band in April.
Really?
In California, yeah, because he lives in LA now, and he's in a band called Holy Fever, which
I've actually heard of them, and I didn't realize that he was in that band either. So.
Yeah, and I think the singer of the Suicide File was the singer of Holy Fever, but I don't think he is anymore.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we were gonna play at Program Skate Shop in Fullerton, and then we were gonna go to Tijuana. But then shows stopped happening everywhere.
Right.
So
then the world crumbled. Yeah.
We actually played Program. We played the
No Time Fest.
Last day of No Time for Fun Fest this past year. Yeah. I think you guys were on that as well, but on a different day at a different place. I think we
were the day before. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Program.
If you've never been, friends, listeners, Program Skate Shop is that fire. It's a fucking cool ass skate shop, clothing shop that also they just move all their shit out of the way and throw shows, and it's an amazing space. And
it's like you always see all the fucking cool ass bands play there because it's like it's very iconic, their background with all the skateboards and shit. It's really cool. Well, just speaking of members of the Hope Conspiracy being in every band possible, like legitimately, like it's insane how spread out this band is, like in terms of amazing bands. So like members of the Hope
you mean
Con,
like connections, like
their drummer Jared, he is in currently None More Black, Paint It Black, and Boy Sets Fire.
I love that he's in None More Black and Paint It Black.
Paint It Black, yep.
I love
He's
that.
in both of those. Their vocalist went on to be in All Pigs Must Die.
Sick.
And then like I'm not sure which member is this, but like they have a current member in Hesitation Wounds and Lies, who are both current Deathwish bands that we will eventually get to. They're like Hesitation Wounds put out a record last year. It's got like Jeremy from Touche Amore, the drummer of Gouge Away, this guy from Hope Conspiracy, but it's
Mirage
just
is in that band too.
Is that who it is? I couldn't figure out who it was in the time I was doing research, but yeah, it's just like they just. Even though the Hope Con is no longer a band, they just went on to form all these like other super influential, cool bands.
And Jared is the fill-in drummer for My Chemical Romance, right?
So it's actually a different Jared, but that is something I was going to bring up. There was a Jared in Hope Con that it was like spelt Jared, and then there's Jared, who was the drummer of Suicide File at this time of the recording, and that's something I was going to bring up. Jeff, current drummer of My Chemical Romance, was the drummer of the Suicide File.
It's a small world.
That's stupid.
That's
like, wild.
It's insane.
Good thing, I was thinking about this. I got real stoned and I was thinking about My Chemical Romance the other day. And I was like, man, like everybody's having a bad 2020. But I feel like My Chemical Romance is having a bad 2020. They were like, hell yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's get it. Oh, God damn it.
No shows.
They're fine.
Finally, they're triumphant. Nope.
I'm sorry, I don't feel bad for My Chemical Romance.
They're probably fine.
What's that?
I don't feel bad for My Chemical Romance. They're fine.
No, I don't feel bad for them either, but I'm sure that they were real bummed.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of that guy, he was also in just a ton of other bands.
Gerard Butler?
No, Jared. I don't know his last name, but he has his own Wikipedia page. That's how many like significant things he's been associated with. He played on one of the early American Nightmare records. He was on a Throwdown record. He's playing in My Chemical Romance. He was in Holy Roman Empire as well, and also he was in one of Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio side projects, Matt Skiba and the Secrets. I was discussing with my roommate earlier, this guy, because like, how does a dude who's in the Suicide File, American Nightmare, how does he where does his path transition to that now he's playing in My Chemical Romance? That's just fucking insane to me.
I mean, it's, I don't know, man. Like the dude that's playing drum, the dude that's the drummer for Slipknot is the fucking guy. It's Max Weinberg's kid.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
it's just like, that's just a wild.
It's just weird shit.
I think it's like
you get a gig.
Yeah, I think it's just bands get to a certain level and they just want like a reliable hard hitter that will just show up and, you know, I don't know, like
they don't like own stock in the band. It's like, we will pay you X amount a show.
Yeah.
Show up.
That's true. It's just like, it's more about like
how did he get the gig?
Yeah. Like, because like, trying to think of how to put it into words. Essentially,
so you as a drummer are trying to figure out how to get the gig. Is that what you're saying?
I want to be in Seether. That's what I'm saying. I want to join Seether.
I don't play drums. I would play drums in Seether.
That's where I'm trying to get to, guys.
That's your goal?
Yeah.
Man, I just really want to be in Seether.
I just want to be in fucking Seether, dude.
I just
the flip side of that is that you'd actually be in Seether. So like
oh right. Fuck.
You know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's come back on course.
Hot take. Fuck Seether.
What? Hold on.
I don't know if you guys like Seether or not, but
wait, Jeff, what was that? We one of the early shows Machinist played forever ago. We had that kid come up to us and was like, "Oh man, you're better
Skillet.
than Skillet." That was the band.
He was like, man, you guys are way better than Skillet. And I was like, sick.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. That was the brother of one of the members of With Blood Comes Cleansing.
Oh my God, that's right. Because it was that reunion show.
We were playing With Blood Comes Cleansing's reunion show, and like his kid brother, who's like 12, comes up and he's like, "Man, you guys are way better than Skillet." And I was like, "I will take that compliment. Thank you."
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Andy, have you ever had any like weird like compliments like that where you're just like, "Thanks. I know that means a lot coming from you, but I don't really know how to take that."
Yeah.
Yeah, none that's coming to mind, but
no, that's cool.
Yeah.
That one just like we were talking about. Anyways, okay, so back on track. The Suicide File. Let's talk about them. So another Boston band. They formed in roughly April 2001, and they really only lasted like 2 or 3 years, which. That's another hardcore band lasting 2 or 3 years. They put a record out and they break up. They broke up in 2003. So they ended up reuniting in 2006, but only to do like
This Is Hardcore.
just like basically, yeah. They played This Is Hardcore Fest, and they toured Europe, but like they're not really an active band. They're just doing those reunion shows and stuff. Which
so, like I said, I'd never heard of the Suicide File, and I fucking like it. Like this shit is good.
Yeah,
I like both sides of this record.
So yeah, let's fucking like. I really like this split. I've never heard any of these songs, and I like the Hope Conspiracy.
What is the deal with the name of this split, Jeremy? You were trying to explain it to the other. It's the Dead Man's Hand.
Okay,
Part
so
one.
essentially, and this is coming off of Deathwish's website. It's
official.
Yes, this is a 4 part split series that's quote built around the card suit. So there's aces, spades, clubs, etc. The cover art for this is a
skull spade.
So the series was meant to showcase what Deathwish felt were the best hardcore bands of the day. All releases feature complex die-cut covers designed by Jacob Bannon. But the crazy thing is 3 of the 4 planned splits were released, but the 4th one never materialized. So it was meant to be this 4-part, like, you know, everything's based on these cards, but there is no Dead Man's Hand 4.
Who do you think should have been on the? Who do you think was on the 4th one?
Well, if it was like modern day for Deathwish, I'd probably say it would be like Gouge Away. I think Gouge Away would be on there. For in terms of like
body.
No, I don't know.
I'm just saying words.
It's just other bands. Maybe maybe Hesitation Wounds. I mean, it's just cool, and we're gonna cover all of them eventually on the podcast. But this was a really good start to that series. I mean, these fucking songs are killer. I think both bands really bring it. I found out that the Hope Conspiracy song, what is it called? Failure. Yeah, Failure is actually like essentially a B-side to an earlier release they just held on to it and then put it out on this split or whatever. And I think it's a fantastic song.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I definitely felt like the two Suicide File songs were recorded at different times. Like the production on them sounded very different to me.
I didn't catch that, but I mean, quite possibly.
I was listening on YouTube, so I don't know if like somebody else like put it together, you know, and like didn't put the same era recording on it, or I don't know. But I really liked it. I thought that both bands killed it, and I'm gonna look up the Suicide File because I didn't know they existed.
Yeah, Andy, were you a big Suicide File fan?
Yeah. I mean, I heard their first EP, like, and then this came out, I believe it's like the same year that it came out. I was looking like in advance of this to see, but, yeah, like, so I did sound for a show in 2002, that was at this skate park. And it was like this all day fest. And if you saw the lineup for this fest today, it'd be in like, I don't know, like a football stadium or something. It was just that like that big of a, like, it was like Fall Out Boy played and like
crazy.
There was like 15, there were like 16 bands that played, and Under Oath was the first band.
Holy shit.
Like the
and
small
like
bill.
I did sound for this show. So I was the only sound guy. So I had to I was like running around, but like I was excited to see the Suicide File, and they played, and right when I was like setting up, I was trying to move quickly, and there was a mic stand on the stage, and I ran up on the stage and I fell, and I almost fell on the mic stand. And if I did that, I probably would have gotten impaled. So, and that was like maybe 5 minutes before the Suicide File went on. So, like,
and that would have made it the most memorable, crazy Suicide File show either.
You guys remember when the sound guy?
Remember when that dude fucking murdered himself on stage at the beginning of our set?
That would have been a thing.
Way to be selfish, Andy, and not fucking just.
But yeah, I don't know.
Fucking
like, yeah, and like Niraj's guitar playing on, you know, on both of the like just the riffs on both sides of the record were great. Mm-hmm. And like on Ashcroft, the like kind of midway through the song, like he does this like high lead.
Yeah.
And like, I definitely ripped that off many times in Eradicator stuff, like just in terms of it's a good transition. So like, yeah, I've definitely ripped that off.
Yeah. I was actually going to mention that lead in particular because I thought that, Ashcroft was my favorite song on the whole record. Yeah. All three songs. I think it's that lead is definitely a really cool great highlight. Something that I kept seeing over and over again in people's reviews of this, of the bands and stuff like that is that, Suicide File, they kind of stand out in this way because they have this rock and roll influence. And so a quote from Niraj specifically says, "The rock and roll influence just happened as a reaction of trying to be different. If I remember correctly, I was listening to a lot of 50s and 60s classic rock, artists like Chuck Berry to CCR. As a result, I tried to figure out how I could incorporate that into writing punk songs. Those bands keep it simple and catchy, so I decided to just try writing songs in the same way, simple and catchy." And I think he fucking knocks it out of the park with these songs. Yeah.
That's cool that was the idea behind like the songwriting was like, let me take like some dad rock songs and like think about how they're put together and then like apply that to like a hardcore punk.
Yeah, hardcore. Like nowadays I have heard bands that kind of sound like this, but I think, you know, this is 20 years removed. So like they're probably ripping off the Suicide File at this point. But right. I think it's a really cool thing. And it definitely seemed very original for the time. Everything that we've heard so far on Deathwish, nothing has sounded really like them. I think it's fucking awesome. And you're right, Andy, when you're saying he like his riffs on both sides are just killer.
Yeah. Well, and like you listen to like the Suicide File stuff that came out in what, 2002, and I just had to look it up just to see, but like the Bronx came out in 2003.
Oh yeah.
And
wow.
Basically like the Suicide File is just a more punk Bronx. Like,
right.
You know, like,
dude, did you see them at Fest this past year? Andy?
I did not. I forgot what was going on, but I saw videos.
Yeah.
The videos are insane.
Fucking nuts, dude. So I had never seen the Bronx. And I very rarely am I like, I mean, you get it. You've been on tour for a million years. Like it's tough to like get gobsmacked about a band, like to get your jaw dropped because like, you know, we're all jaded. Like we've seen a majillion bands, but like, dude, they started playing and like, I literally was jaw dropped. I was like, this band is fucking amazing. Like they just like the singer, I have chill bumps right now talking about it. Like he just fucking got it, dude. And like it was phenomenal to see. I was very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that band.
Yeah.
The videos from that set of him standing in the middle of the crowd and they're just
circle pitting around
him because he was just like basically like, yo, like, but it's Fest, so you're not like Fest never gets like super aggressive. The most they do is, you know, they'll stage dive or skank, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but it's never been a super aggressive like crowd, even for super aggressive bands. And so he was just like, no, we have to keep it, let's get it going. And he goes out into the crowd and just like everyone circles around him.
Also like the main stage at Fest, the Bo Diddley Plaza, it's always like, you know, kind of family friendly. It's more of like that feel. And the Bronx just came out and they were just like, what the fuck is up, motherfuckers? At like 2:00 in the afternoon. And I was just like, yes, thank you. Now smoke cigarettes on stage. Be bad boys.
It's the feeling I wish 2-3 years ago, Crime and Stereo played that same stage, and it was so disappointing.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
No one was there, no energy.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt so bad for them. I hadn't seen them in like 10 years at that point, and I was just like, wow, this sucks.
It's a weird stage.
Yeah, it's great for, say, when you go to see Jawbreaker.
Yeah,
but if I'm gonna see a hardcore band, it's weird. It's weird to see them outside like that. But anyways, we talk about Fest every episode. We have to, one day we will not do that. It's just all right. But yeah, so
Fest'scography.
That's
podcast.
us.
All right.
So I think I mentioned this earlier, but I'm the HopeCon side was recorded with Kurt Ballou, but I was not sure where the Suicide Files side was recorded. I know it was recorded somewhere different, though you can obviously tell the production, not the quality, but the styles were vastly different. But I think that the production on both sides sounds fantastic. On the Suicide File, it's not as how to put it, it's not as like full sounding. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because they are completely different kind of styles of bands. HopeCon's got that metallic tinged hardcore heaviness, and Suicide File is that kind of like rock and roll hardcore where it's like, you know, the vocals and the higher end on the guitars really stand out on the Suicide File side of the split. I think it's really cool. And honestly, I'm glad that they didn't go to the same person because I want the sides of the split to kind of sound different. I don't know. Right. If that's like a weird opinion, but it's like, you know, there are two bands recording, even if they shared members, obviously, like it's two distinct bands. I want them to be distinct pieces that work together, but don't sound exactly the same. I don't know if that's a weird thing, but I'm just kind of spitballing.
So I'm looking. So I think like the Suicide File recorded at, it looks like Atomic Recording Company, whereas the same place that No Warning recorded Ill Blood.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I couldn't find it before, but that they did record other records there. So that would make sense that they would have recorded this there too as well. Something I wanted to real quick bring up about the Hope Conspiracy. Something I've always liked about that band is the name. I think it's a really cool, unique name. It stands out from the crowd, and I did find an interview with them about where they came up with the name, and it's essentially a U2 reference, which is fucking weird.
Hate it.
Basically, the U2 had a tour in the 80s called the Conspiracy of Hope Tour, So they were just like, apparently they're all U2 fans. And they were like, that's perfect. That's what we're going to name our band. We're going to name our fucking metallic hardcore band after a U2 album or a U2 tour. I guess it's not the weirdest thing in the world, but it's just like a weird stretch. I don't know. I really like that shit.
I don't.
Oh, okay. Fine.
I like it less now. Hashtag I don't want the HopeCon to play Fest anymore because that name thing is dumb. I'm just kidding. I don't care. I'm in a band called Machinist with an exclamation point at the end. I don't give a shit.
Nothing matters. Everything is stupid.
It really doesn't.
I wanted to talk about the artwork kind of briefly. We mentioned earlier that this is called Dead Man's Hand, and it's the series is all built around these card suits. This one being spades. I know you guys have the art in front of you. So essentially the main cover art, which is a big spade that has a skull on it, is a die cut thing, and that you could see the record behind it. It was like That's done sick. In like this cool clear sleeve with that pressed onto it. And I think that's just like the packaging is really fucking cool. And it seems to be that this is the first time that Deathwish has done this sort of like unique packaging for a record, but it's definitely not the last. Like they're kind of known for like their insane packaging nowadays, at least. You look at any Converge, like the last Converge record is done on like this multicolor foil shit, and then you look, all these other bands have like die cut stuff, or it's done in I want to say the Touche Amore Self-Defense Family split, or collaboration record I should say, was done like the record is just a clear sleeve with their letters printed all over it. There's no actual like art. It's just, I don't know, like I like when bands or when artists play with the idea of the medium. Like, so it's like, this is really cool, and it's the first time that we're seeing it with the label, and they definitely go on to do it. It's definitely the least it's definitely more interesting. This artwork is more interesting than some of the ones we've seen recently on the podcast.
Yeah.
That last one, Andy, do you know the band Horror Show? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about one of their EPs last episode, and like Jeff just thought it was like a shoe print. It's like this weird, like blood splatter looking thing, but it kind of just looks like a shoe. It's not particularly good. So to go from that to this,
that's relative. Like, I'm sure there are people who love it, but for us,
for us, I was gonna say everything on this, it's just for us, but it's just like, in comparison, I think this artwork is really cool. Like I said, Jacob Bannon did it, and he tends to do a lot of the Deathwish artwork. So I'm interested to see what the rest of these, the series looks like. I don't know when we'll get to them.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you know if they're like in quick succession? These
I don't think so.
Dead Man Hand split
I think
series.
We definitely have a couple releases before the next one. I think it was more of a maybe once a year sort of thing, rather than like the next couple releases.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's basically
I feel like
all
there's not really a lot to talk about. I mean, it's 3 songs, and I mean the split comes in at like under 6 minutes. It's like 5 and change. So that pretty much wraps it up on that. What are we going to next, Jeremy? What's the next segment?
All right. Well, so I would say the next thing is, what have we been listening to? Last episode, we went on a really big tangent, but like this, we're going to keep it streamlined. This one, I've been doing a lot of, I'm moving into a new place. I've been doing a lot of painting, and I've just been like putting in kind of like my iPod on, or my iPod. Wow. Not my iPod.
Your Zune.
My Zune. I've been putting my Zune on shuffle. And I don't know, Jeff, do you remember the band Spirit Animals? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Andy, have you ever heard of them? So they eventually changed their name to Holy Land. They were like a small hardcore band out of Richmond. And they put out 2 7-inches, I think, with the vocalist of Trapped Under Ice doing some guest stuff. Anyways, it's just kind of like super groovy hardcore. And it just like came up, and all of a sudden I had to listen to all of it. So I've been listening to Spirit Animal a ton. They don't exist anymore. They basically put those 7 inches out, got really popular, and then died off. I mean, so is the story of hardcore. The other thing on a very opposite end of the spectrum is I've been listening to the Blue Album by Weezer. It's very good painting music. I don't know. I was telling my partner the story about how the person who introduced me to Weezer reminds me a lot of Rivers Cuomo. He's got the thick glasses. He plays guitar in a band. He kind of talks like it's this weird.
His name is Rivers.
No. But yeah, it's just a really good record. And the last thing I've been listening to this week is another podcast I wanted to give a shout out to. Jeff, you actually turned me on to this. It's the Scaredy Cats Horror Show.
Oh, it's good, man.
Yeah, it's basically the premise, for all you who have not heard of it, is that one of the hosts really loves scary movies and like falls asleep to them. That's how much he loves them. The other one is deathly afraid of them. And that is kind of
has no interest in watching horror films.
Exactly. Like is so scared of them, will never would watch them. But the premise of the show is to get that guy into horror movies, like through exposure to them and through whatever. So I've been listening to that. It's fantastic. The first episode's on The Exorcist.
So like every week, the guy who doesn't like him has to like watch a horror movie on his own.
Yep. And he's scared shitless.
Yeah, and he hates
like,
it. He fucking hates it.
Yeah. So the second episode's like Nightmare on Elm Street. It's really cool. It's really good. You guys should check it out. Jeff, what have you been listening to?
I have been listening to Everything in Transit by Jack's Mannequin.
All right.
It's a record that came out in 2005, but picked it up again recently and have just been jamming it. It's the guy from Something Corporate. It's his other band.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I guess like the band came into existence. He had been on tour for like 2 years basically with Something Corporate, and he just like went out in his garage. I remember this interview because it just stuck with me. He like went out in his garage and just like shaved his head and his beard off, and just like he had like long gross hair and like this big beard, and he just shaved it all off and then like started writing this record. And he was like, all right, this isn't a Something Corporate record. And that's how this band started or whatever. But I've just been listening to that.
Pretty intense.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't really listened to a lot of stuff this week. We've kind of had a crazy week. But Andy, what have you been listening to?
I really haven't, like, I don't know, something with the pandemic. Like, I haven't really been listening to a lot of stuff. Just like watching stuff, and like I'm watching Watchmen, the HBO show.
Oh, the new HBO show.
Yeah, which is pretty.
How is it?
It's pretty good.
I've never seen it, but I was super interested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are definitely talking about it. Didn't it just become available on something?
Hulu?
I think it's coming to Hulu.
Yeah. Then the other thing, actually, there's a podcast that Jake and Warren turned me on to. Or no, maybe it was Mike. But like we were listening to it when we were playing shows that weekend in January. But it's called the Endless Honeymoon Podcast. It's like a throwback to Loveline, which is like an old MTV show in the 90s.
I've seen some of that show.
Yeah, it's like Love Advice, but like it's like two comedians, this married couple.
Nice.
But it's super funny. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
Those are the things. And just
What's it called again?
Endless Honeymoon.
I might have to check it out.
It's fun.
But I know what you mean about the pandemic, man. Like, honestly, the only reason I'm staying like having new music to listen to and talk about is just because this podcast has helped me and Jeff like kind of have something to like do every week.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like in the sense of like, okay, so I'm going to listen to the songs we're talking about, the record we're talking about, but I also want to have a contribution to the what are you listening to? So I've been trying to stay somewhat up to date on new music, or just
haven't at all. Some like normally these segments go, Jeremy's like, I've been listening to this record that came out and this record that came out and then this record, and I'm like, I've been listening to the Mulan soundtrack. So
but yeah, I just know what you mean in the sense of like not just not doing anything or not listening to anything. It's a fucking weird time.
It is.
And you know, there's bands still releasing new music. Like Trash Talk just put a new record out like a couple weeks ago, and it's like I feel weird with that stuff because it's like, you know, you're not going to see that band for a year at least from now.
Yeah.
I mean, probably longer for us. I mean, we both live in small towns, me and Jeff, and like, you know, Trash Talk, I've seen they've come through Florida like once since I've lived here, you know, and now, but it's like, who knows the next time it's going to happen with all this shit that's happening. But anyways, not to get too
so to do the opposite of what Jeremy just said, I was watching Fuck That's Delicious. Have you seen that show?
Yeah.
Guys? Yeah, with Action Bronson. Was watching that the other night, and I was really stoned again. And I wasn't really watching it. It was just on. And then I heard like this dude talking, and he's like, yeah, my son is a founding member of the band Trash Talk. And I was like, what? And like I like fumblingly like rewound it, and they were at this place, like this restaurant, and like the dude who owns it, he's like, yeah, that's how we got in touch with Action. Like my son was one of the founding members of Trash Talk, and like he's really big friends with Action, so he told him to check out my place when he was over here. And I was just like, what the fuck?
That's so
like
fucking cool.
I never would have expected to hear Trash Talk's name on a fucking cooking show. But
yeah. All right, well, we got one more little section of the podcast before we wrap things up. This
it's
week
called
on
Talk Shit to the Guest. All right,
this
Andy,
week on Talk Shit to the Guest.
Your hair looks nice.
It's
Oh, thanks.
that looks like cool artwork in the background of the.
Yeah.
Is that a basketball hoop?
Yeah. So I'm currently so I'm in Milwaukee, but I live in Chicago, but I'm one of the owners of a music venue in Milwaukee. So I'm here working today. And we are not open, by the way. We won't be open for a while.
Come on down.
Yeah.
I mean, so I work for a venue like we talked about earlier. Jake and Warren partially own this place called The Backyard, and I work there, and we are not open currently, but like we were open, but then because the state is trying to roll out like these openings, and they're trying to push like the third wave of reopening and stuff like that. But the cases, like the numbers are spiking so hard that we've like closed
Florida
back
is
again.
going insane, dude.
Like we're not having like shows. Like don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be like, we're having shows, but it's just like we are just being open as a bar.
Like,
But even that is like, no, I don't feel safe. It's very, very weird. And I can imagine, especially with you being in a big city like Milwaukee, it's something.
Yeah.
But okay.
Yeah.
Listener shit. This is stuff asked. Wow, I just stumbling all over that sentence. Some listeners asked us some questions. I'm going to throw these out to you guys and just, give me your fucking. All right. What is the scariest movie you saw when you were a kid? That was asked by Savannah Travers. For me, I think I can answer Jeff right now, and that's going to be Child's Play.
Nope, you're wrong because I've never seen it.
It was so scary you couldn't see it.
Because I can't fucking watch it. I get to the part where she gets onto him for turning the TV on, and then she puts him to bed, and the doll is in the bed, and she goes out of the room, and that fucking doll head goes and looks at him, and I fucking turn it off every time, dude. I can't do it. I can't. I've read every Wikipedia about every Child's Play movie that's ever existed. I know everything about it. Cannot watch the fucking movie. I can't do it. It sucks.
Yeah, I was gonna say we were talking earlier about I'm pretty afraid of horror movies. I don't like jump scares. I've seen a ton of horror movies that like would have scared the shit out of me as a kid. Like I've seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street, but as a kid, I would never have watched it. I would never have been able to. So like, honestly, I did not watch very many horror movies when I was a kid. And so the scariest thing I can think of, and yes, it's not technically a horror movie, but it still scared me and I still watched it, was the X-Files. For whatever reason, that theme song, man, it'd come on and I just freak out and I would just like not be able to handle it. Yeah. X-Files. Yeah. Not in a good way though. But yeah, it's just like it was very eerie and it had all the, it wasn't necessarily the aliens, but the monsters of the week would always freak me out as a kid. But that's it's not until I became an adult that I've even watched any scary movies. And I'm still struggling with that, which is why I like that podcast I talked about so much earlier, because I identify with this guy who's like, I've seen The Exorcist and it really freaked me out. I was like, yes, same. Andy, what about you?
Two that are sticking out. So the movie Candyman.
Oh,
that was in the 90s. I mean, I'm from Chicago and it's kind of based in Chicago. So that and Shocker. So Shocker came out in 89. It was like, yeah.
Is this the one with the guy who dies in the electric chair?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, this shit.
I've never even heard of it.
Yeah.
Oh, he like die. Doesn't he like die in the electric chair and he can like move through like phone lines and shit?
Okay,
yeah.
I can see it now. Okay, okay.
Mm-mm.
Well, cool. All
So it
right,
was
second question.
it was a Wes Craven movie.
Yeah,
Wes Craven? Okay, shit. I actually really do enjoy watching older movies like that now. I might have to look that up.
You know, they're making that Candyman remake.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's trailers for it and everything. Jordan Peele joint.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Got one more question for everyone. This one's brought to us by Sarah Warrender. With the cult-like following that My Chemical Romance has, would you ever label them as a boy band? Discuss. That's it.
I guess.
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say that sure. Well, I don't know. Fucking, they're a pop band at this point. Whatever. I mean, I don't have real strong opinions on My Chemical Romance. It was just a really funny question because she knew that we were talking about this record that the guy is now in My Chemical Romance, so she wanted to give us something dumb to talk about.
I don't know, man. Like in my head, boy bands don't play instruments.
Okay. That's a really good, because like I was going to say.
That's like my definition in my head, like New Kids on the Block, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, O-Town.
Yeah, shit. Even like someone like the Monkees, like they were kind of a boy band because they didn't play their own instruments. They were just pop stars singing. Okay. All right.
I don't know.
Sorry, Sarah. They're not a boy band, no matter how much you want them to be. All right. Well, we're going to let's wrap things up.
Our word is law.
Our word is law. Sorry, Sarah. Okay. Next episode, we are going to be discussing the EP Glass Bullet by the band The Blinding Light. This is a band I've never heard of. Always excited for stuff like that. Deathwish has a pretty strong track record so far. I think we've only really hated one record. We won't mention it. Andy, I'll tell you later. Right. But
they know what it is. We dragged it pretty hard. It's fucking what's it called?
That's how bad it is. We've just we've moved on. All right.
Hellchild.
Yeah, Hellchild.
Yeah.
The album Bearskin by Hell, just
Bearskin by Hellchild.
But yeah, so next episode we're going to be talking about Glass Bullet by The Blinding Light. So you can find.
Hold on a second, Andy. What are you up to these days? Are there plans? I know obviously things are, on hold because of COVID, but what have you got going on these days? You got anything coming up? You got anything you want to plug? You got any sorted hot goss that you want to release on our podcast? You heard it here first. Lamb goat beefs. Tell us.
So, yeah, I mean, so like I said, I'm part owner with like a group of like 10 people of a bar in Milwaukee, or it's a venue in Milwaukee called X-Ray Arcade. Obviously been closed since March. So yeah, it's called X-Ray Arcade. We, not doing great financially. So if anyone wants to, in the, podcast sphere, wants to donate, go to our Facebook page and we've got like a GoFundMe link up there.
Hell yeah. We'll link it in the pod's description also.
Cool. And then, I mean, that's really it. I'm actually trying to like write more stuff because what else am I going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
So, starting to write like the third Eradicator LP, which is good.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That last one was really good. So always excited for new stuff.
The first one, not so much, but that last
one. No, thank you. All right. Well, cool. You could check out.
Did you guys? Sorry to cut you off again, Jeremy. Talking about owning a bar. Did you hear that the fucking Jinx in Savannah is closing because of this?
They are closing, but they are already putting in plans in motion to just move.
Well, yeah, but the Jinx has been where the Jinx is for like 20 years.
Yeah, because they're getting evicted.
Yeah, they're getting evicted because they literally can't pay the rent for the bar.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Not to put that heavily on your mind, Andy. I'm sorry.
Jesus. God, Jeff.
Whoops.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
Must be bad, but you know what could happen? Sorry.
It's all good.
Oh, he just hangs up.
He's like, no. Delete this. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. No.
All right.
I rescind my permission.
I'm going to say our social media stuff now. You're going to cut me off again. All right, here we go. Our Instagram, you can find the podcast at Deathscography Pod. You can find us on Twitter at Deathscography. You can find us on Facebook at Deathscography Pod as well. We have a Facebook group where you can talk shit. It's called Deathwish Posting. It's been pretty fun so far. It's still relatively new, but it's a cool thing. You can email us at deathscographypod@gmail.com. Email us some dumb questions, and we'll answer them like we did like when we're talking about MCR as a boy band. I don't know. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Iron Raygun. Jeff?
You can find me on Instagram at Despite Jeff and on Twitter at Carbomb Sermon. Andy, where can we find you?
On Instagram at the Eradicator.
Cool. I was gonna say, so thanks again, Andy, for coming on. It's been a really fun time. We really like having people who like the records. Do you know what I mean? Like when you express interest, you're like, I like these bands. That's really fun for us to have that, because it's a lot of times for us, it's like stuff we don't know. So it's been really fun.
For me, this was cool because like Andy's a little bit older than us, so he could actually like he remembers when it came out. Like,
yeah.
So like it was cool to hear a perspective like that we haven't heard yet on the podcast of somebody who was like in the know in the scene when that came out. So like that's cool.
Yeah,
exactly. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Cool.
Bye.
See ya.